Happy holiday season, everyone, from my Fertility Podcast. Today's episode is a special one. Not that they aren't all special, of course, but we're going to look back at all the incredible conversations we had in 2025.
That's right. And wow, what a year it has been. We have been so privileged to have shared amazing stories of hope, science, advocacy, and one of my favorites were those WTF appointments episodes.
Yes, the opportunity to say WTF on a podcast multiple times was definitely a lot of fun. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We're recapping in style, series by series, story by story. Before we get to that, we want to have a bit of a heart-to-heart with you.
As the year wraps up, I really want to send you a bit of extra love. I remember when I was going through my own fertility journey, the holidays were really, really hard. Of course, they can be joyful and there is a lot of celebration, but it can also be really complicated when your heart is carrying the weight of big dreams and unanswered questions, when it feels like you're the only one left without present. So remember that you're not defined by the size of your family. You're not defined by what's under your Christmas tree. But think about the incredible resilience that you have shown every day this year. Think about all the ways that you have shown up for the pursuit of your dreams. Whether this season brings you laughter, quiet reflection, or even a few tears, know that you are seen, that you're supported, and that you're never alone. Even when it feels like there's no hope, even when it feels that you are the only one that doesn't get to realize your dreams, just look at yourself in the mirror, give yourself a hug, and remember that you're stronger than you think and that you are loved, you're seen, and you're worth it.
That's beautiful. The holidays can sometimes feel like a giant, perfect family photo with matching outfits and all the perfect Christmas ornaments. And you may or may not be sure quite where you fit in that, but trust me, you do belong. If the holidays mean dodging awkward questions, potentially raising a toast to the future, or potentially not knowing whether you can raise a toast of exactly what kind of liquid, alcohol or not, that's okay. Or if it's simply about binging holiday movies in your pajamas, which is my personal favorite, you are doing the season just right. With the holidays, give yourself permission to celebrate in your own way, with your own traditions, big or small. You have fought so hard this year, and you deserve rest, laughter, and of course, maybe a little bit of extra dessert. From our hearts to yours, may the coming year bring fresh possibilities, new joys, and the kind of hope that keeps your spirit glowing.
That was beautiful. Very well said. And now we should get to our year in review. So if you will, please do the honors.
All right. So we kicked off 2025 with episode 40. I finally got to do a deep dive into pineapples. Pineapples, fertility, and the sweet symbol of hope. Because let's face it, no fertility journey is complete without pineapples on socks, mugs, Instagram feeds,
That's right.
sweaters, and of course, the pineapple cores in all places.
That is so true. Episode 41 brought us Hannah's story. This was the story of her vegan lifestyle and her IVF journey. It's a reminder that nutrition, values, and fertility can often intertwine on one's journey.
Mm-hmm. Next, we had episode 42, where we were talking about prenatal screening with our phenomenal genetic counselor, Diane Miles-Reed, where we talked about all the acronyms, EFTS, NIPT, and of course, trisomy 13, 18, and 21.
And then came our miscarriage series. We covered on episode 43 the basics of miscarriage, like symptoms, types, and causes. And in episode 46, we dove into the management options and answered some frequently asked questions. In episode 53, we explored the psychological and emotional side of miscarriage, which of course is very important to highlight.
And of course, let's not forget about recurrent pregnancy loss. On episode 51 and episode 56, we gave a roadmap on risk factors, different categories of causes, potential testing options, and different management options as well.
Male partners, we didn't forget about you. With Dr. Jarvie, we had episode 44 on semen analysis and DNA fragmentation. And on episode 52, we went over ways to improve sperm health.
So yes, for the gentlemen listeners out there, boxers or briefs does matter sometimes. And of course, let us not forget about that testicular cooling we learned about too.
We tackle a new topic this year, and that is pelvic health. And we welcome not one, but 2 episodes with the pelvic physiotherapy dream team, Corny and Aparna from Cornerstone Physiotherapy. In episode 45, we tackle vaginismus and different treatment options. And in episode 65, we talked about why your pelvic floor matters in pregnancy and postpartum.
And, spoiler alert, Kegels are not the be-all and end-all of your pelvic floor.
On episode 48, we explored naturopathic medicine with Dr. Moira Kwok. Episode 57 was a really special one with Dara Roth Etney. In that episode, we talked about navigating the emotional weight of Mother's Day. There were so many great tips and coping mechanisms in that episode, and quite frankly, that is one that can be used and kept in your back pocket for any time that you are experiencing something that is difficult to process emotionally. I cried in that episode, which apparently I do a lot, but in that particular episode, the famous Dr. Wais, who never cries, was actually crying.
It is true. Absolutely true. Dara holds a special place in my heart always. Over the podcast's year, we also had many, many moving personal journeys and stories that we shared with you. On episode 47 with Nizan, we shed light on cultural taboos in South Asian communities. Episode 49 shared Tom's story as a male partner navigating infertility. He has made such a big impact on the world of fertility and fertility advocacy that he is a finalist for the World Fertility Awards.
Congratulations, Tom!
On episode 66, we shared Jessica's story and her journey, which inspired the creation of My Storia. Episode 69 had Tom and Alexi's epic 6-year fertility journey. Felt like the roller coaster of all roller coasters to end all roller coasters. On episode 70, we had Alexa and Kevin's donor egg journey and a life-saving transplant. Tears will be shed listening to this episode, we warn you. Even had our producer crying during the editing process. Episode 79, we had Molly Edwards, who so openly shared her fertility journey and her hunt for the right clinic.
Yeah, I love that episode. Molly shared also how she had to travel from northern communities to access fertility care. And she had to do a lot of advocacy and talks about how she really had to decide to leave one clinic for another and what was the process for that. You know, hearing personal stories is one of my favorite things about doing this podcast, other than hanging out with you, of course. Every story reminds us that patients aren't alone. Every journey is so unique for everyone. And even though many of these stories have been my patients, I have learned through the episodes, through talking to them in the context of the podcast, so many things that I didn't know, even though I had been involved in their journeys.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. It's so rewarding to be able to sit down and to have that conversation, you know, person to person, human to human, as opposed to focusing always in on the medicine.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Now, of course, we also did many deep knowledge dives as well. So for those looking to learn more about IVF, we continued our IVF series on episode 54. That was part 3. Where we talked about different add-on treatments and adjuvant treatments. And episode 58, which was part 4 of our IVF series, where we talked about mini IVF, low-dose IVF, or sometimes otherwise known as minimal stimulation IVF. And then in episode 67 and 68, we dove into fresh embryo transfer part 1 and frozen embryo transfer part 1.
And of course, we have to talk about that WTF appointment scenario. So in episode 62, we talked about WTF, how come sometimes we get less eggs than expected. And in episode 75, we talked about WTF, fertilization failures. Why didn't my eggs fertilize? Because fertility journeys aren't always straightforward, it is okay to say WTF.
Yeah. Now, we also did a series on I'm pregnant, now what? On episode 55, we talked about kind of initial testing steps, vitamins, diet, and then in episode 61, we got into common symptoms, including nausea, vomiting, medications in pregnancy, exercise in pregnancy, and of course, cats.
Just cannot forget the cats.
Cannot forget the pet cats. And then on episode 71, we talked about beauty products and beauty treatments during pregnancy as well.
Admit it, that was your favorite episode to research, wasn't it?
That and the pineapples. The pineapples one was pretty fun.
Yeah, this is a great series because really, even after getting pregnant, of course, the anxiety is still there. And now that you work so hard to get pregnant, a lot of our patients are saying, well, now what? I still have questions. I still need support. Yeah. I need to know what to do and how to protect this pregnancy at all costs. So I thought that was a really great series as well.
Yeah, and it was very interesting and educational too. And it's fun to kind of go back and review all the literature. Now, we've also had episodes on conditions like ectopic pregnancy. That was episode 59, what patients need to know. There was recurrent implantation failure, part 1 and part 2 in episode 72 and 76. And then...
we did it this year.
We actually started our immune series in 2025. I honestly think that might be one of our biggest accomplishments. It took a while. We acknowledge that for sure. It was a lot of mental work for us to get there, to actually bring it to fruition, but we're super proud of what we put out. And so that was episode 78, where we plunged into immune testing and treatments and why all the controversy.
Exactly. Inclusivity is always really important in the world of fertility, of course. On episode 63, we met with Lane Halpern-Sisman, who gave us incredible insights into the 2S LGBTQ plus fertility support and her book, Conceivable. Make sure you check out that episode. The book is an excellent resource.
I have to say, there's one moment from that episode that I constantly replay in my mind. And that's when she is giving her 5 pieces of advice around the fertility journey. And she says, expect the unexpected. Mm-hmm. And that is so universally true.
That is so true. Yeah.
That is something that's constantly replaying in my mind, for sure. Surrogacy was another big topic this year. On episode 60, we had Baden and Zane's surrogacy journey. And then on episode 64, we featured Zane's advocacy work and Scotty's law.
Scotty is his daughter, by the way.
Mm-hmm. On episode 77, we welcomed Marissa from Defining Journeys.
We also welcome on episode 73, Patricia and Ekene from Black Fertility Agency. And in episode 74, we had Sarah Cohen, a renowned fertility lawyer that talks about the legal sides of family building.
We also cannot forget episode 50, where we celebrated 1 year of My Fertility Podcast with the When Marta Met Mavis episode. And of course, you learned a lot about us personally.
That was a really fun episode. And now here we are, wrapping up another amazing year with all our listeners. Fun fact, you ready? We have reached over 50,000 downloads and have listeners over 2,700 cities across the world.
That's incredible. That's absolutely amazing.
That's right. We see you, Toronto, Sudbury, Calgary, Brisbane, Paris, Athens, Dubai, Vancouver.
It's so incredible to see the reach. Now, 2026, I vote we do a world tour to visit all these cities. What do you think?
No, we have to stay here and see patients. But nice try.
Fine. I get it. I understand. The cities do sound pretty good.
They do.
Thank you so much for listening, sending us questions, engaging with social media on Instagram and YouTube, writing reviews, and of course, sharing the knowledge and stories with your circle.
I have to say, every time I see a new patient and they tell me, oh, I listened to the podcast and I know exactly what you mean when you say X, Y, and Z, my heart just want to explode. Because from day one of starting this career, that was my biggest pain point, that my patients just had this time with me in their office and they had no other source, no other way of hearing me talk about their concerns. So the podcast has done that. Thank you so much to our producer, Daniela, for helping us do that.
All right. So what is the big takeaway from 2025?
Well, there were many, but if I have to summarize it in one sentence, I would say fertility is complex. Like Lane said, expect the unexpected, but patients are resilient. Communities are strong, and every story matters. Here's to more conversations, more stories, more knowledge, more sharing, and more support in 2026.
And we promise we will continue the immune series.
Yes.
And of course, remember, you are not alone in this. We've got you.
Thank you for taking us with you in all the cities of the world. Thank you for listening to us while you drive, you cook, you walk. We are so grateful that you're making us part of your journey.